depression thing was doing to Dad. It just destroyed the man he was. I actually don't think I've talked about this. I was having a horrible day one day, possibly one of my worst days. I'm 6 years on. We're fortunate enough to be a national charity now. And
John, thanks for joining me today, mate.
Mate, it's so good to meet you. We've known each other so long and spoken so many times.
I know, it's been probably about Jan, Feb since I spoke to you?
I think so, yeah. So
came up with some random idea and...
Crazy idea. Just a crazy idea. You've done so well. It's been incredible to watch you run and just non-stop and raise so much awareness. So firstly, mate, thank you. Thank you so much for all the work you've done.
Thank you, mate, and thank you for everything you've done. I did this all for a reason, not only for me, but it's for the charity as well, which we'll speak about today, I'm sure.
Absolutely, we can do it.
But as for those listening, as I said, I've only known you for a short while, but I've been following your work for some time, the Shaka Project charity. Like, it's just amazing the stuff you've done. You've helped me, you've helped a lot of my friends, all that as well. And so as a special thing, I wanted to get you on the pod to talk about that, to learn about you and how it sort of all came across. So I'm excited to chat to you today.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I'm super keen. Let's do it.
Beautiful. But before we get into that, there's a question I ask every single guest that comes on. I don't know if you've actually read the question yet. So
I haven't yet. I don't think
we might have a big pause here. So we'll be prepared to edit that out. But if you could go back to any moment in history, witness it with your eyes, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That is an unreal question. I would probably go back to the war room with Winston Churchill and just watch that.
So from afar.
Watch from afar. Watch those conversations. I'm super interested in everything throughout that sort of Churchill. I suppose era and what he did and how he acted and how he was and all these sort of things. I've read all of his books and everything on him, and I think to be in the room when he was going through what could be explained as one of the most horrifying periods of the world, and for him to be able to sort of do what he did and I suppose go through what he needed to go through and put that, the entire world war on his back when it came to it. I think that would be super interesting. That's probably the left field answer, but I've always thought that it would just be super interesting to be in the room.
You know, the funny thing, that has probably been 50% of the answers I've had on
here.
Really? Have been all war related.
Yeah, right.
World War II, Winston Churchill, you name it. Everyone's just been so invested in that. So it's probably just something going on there in our minds.
It's like blokes in the Romans. We just always the Roman Empire. Yeah, it's like that. But no, probably something like that, just to be in the room and witness. You probably don't know it's going to be history at the time, but to witness history in that time would be pretty incredible.
Special. Not actually involved in it. You just like to be.
No, I don't want to do anything. But if I can watch it, that'd be
unreal.
Absolutely.
But mates. So let's get to know you, the man behind the Shaka itself. So my understanding, to give people a little rundown, you're the creator, the owner, the founder of the Shaka Project.
Yep.
Which is a great cause, raising towards mental health for both men and women, I'm assuming. But
absolutely.
It's basically a sense of how did that all start? Like, there's obviously, you don't just decide one day, I'm going to open up a charity. There's got to be something behind it. So just let us know about you as a person.
Yeah, look, I think it all really started, and I'll tell this story a lot. My mental health journey started really, really young. And it started when my dad first came to my brother and I and told us about his own mental health and his depression.
Wow, yeah.
And it was a really, really big moment. At the time, I was a 12-year-old kid. I obviously loved my dad. I loved my family. Everything was going pretty well for an average 12-year-old kid. And when my dad sat us both down and spoke about this thing called depression, I had no idea what it was. I knew illnesses like cancer. I knew how scary they were and those sorts of things too. And when my dad sat us down and he was, looking visibly upset and he was talking about the depression thing, I was like, what is depression? What is this thing? Why?
How old were you then?
I was 12.
12.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, what is this depression and why is it so big that Dad feels the need to tell us about it? And he told us as much as he possibly could at the time, and that he was seeking support. And, it's something that it's not your fault, not your brother's fault, not mum's fault, all that sort of stuff. And as a 12-year-old kid, I didn't hear the word, the big words, cancer or heart attack or these sort of things that I knew could take people away, and I just sort of moved on with life. I thought, okay, well, I don't understand this thing. I don't know what depression is.
Yeah.
My dad said that he's okay, so he's going to be okay. And over the next few years, I really saw what this depression thing was doing to Dad. It just destroyed the man he was. You know, he went from this dad that was just such a bright, happy. You know, I think a lot of, if not all kids, look up to their fathers as this big, strong Superman all the time, and I still do, and that has definitely never sort of changed. But you saw the shift of someone who just felt like they were different, and something was happening to them, and they were almost losing themselves a little bit. And you know, I sort of built up this real anger towards Dad. I was like, why are you different? You know, why is everything changing with you? And why aren't you the dad that you were 2 years ago, 12 months ago? And I always went to my mum and to my brother and my aunties, and I always asked the question. I said, why is Dad different? What's going on with Dad? Why did Dad do this? Why is Dad this? And every single time I asked the question, it was the same answer. It's his depression. It's a depression talking. You know, he loves you, Sean. He's still your dad. He's still number one, but the depression makes these little things that used to be pretty easy really, really tough.
And were you still just putting it together at this stage too?
Still putting it together. Yeah, still sort of not really understanding what it was. But I knew one thing. I knew I absolutely hated it. I was like, you know, how dare you come into my family? You destroy my parents' marriage. They divorced eventually about a year later. You know, that you destroy my relationship with my dad and with my brother. And you take my dad away. You know, how dare you come in and you just rip through our family. And at the age of 15, 16, I started to experience my own mental health. And this really, really incredible thing happened. And I didn't really see it as incredible until I got to, you know, early adult years. But I was able to recognise it straight away. And the only reason I was able to recognise it is because my dad spoke to me about it 3-4 years earlier. And I was also able to recognise that, hey, if my dad can go and seek support, then so can I. And whenever I go and do presentations around sporting clubs and stuff like that too, I always say that I'm one of the lucky ones, because the conversation around mental health that was almost 18 years ago, was non-existent.
That's what I was going to say. Like, the fact your dad comes to you and say that, like, I couldn't imagine 18 years ago my dad ever speak to me about that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
there was no chance.
Absolutely life-changing. And then again, at the time, I didn't conceive that whatsoever. You know, I just thought, oh, Dad's sick. And when I got to the stage where I was starting to experience my own mental health, and I was starting to acknowledge that, okay, I know you, I know what you are. You've come in, you've destroyed my dad, you've destroyed this. I know who you are. I also know that I can go and get onto some medication for you. Or I also know that I can go and speak to someone about you. And that at the time was normal, but it took me till I got to the age of 21, 22 to realise that actually that wasn't normal, that I was given the permission really, really young to be able to talk about these things. Yeah. And, you know, growing up at high school, throughout high school, and seeing mates that weren't open about their mental health and weren't open about what they're experiencing, especially males. And, you know, that was a really big motivator for me to go, right, how can we normalise this conversation a little bit more too? So a lot of stuff obviously happened in between you know, that moment and starting the charity, you know, with my own mental health. And I've had, you know, a lot of suicide attempts, unfortunately, throughout that time, and I'm extremely fortunate to still be here. But the main reason we really, really wanted to start this movement is to really just crush the stigma around mental health, you know, so that there's opportunities to have conversation around mental health on podcasts or on the TV or at the pub with your mates, or you know, in a group inbox. You know, you can just have a chat about, hey boys, I had a pretty shitty day today, you know, and have a conversation about it. And
just make it the norm, basically.
Make it the normal. Yeah. You know, like talking about the footy on the weekend, we talk about, last week was rough. Yeah. You know, last week was really, really rough. Today is good. We'll see what tomorrow brings, and being able to talk about it like that too. So that was the ultimate goal, really, was just to be able to have those conversations. And really, when we started it, it was meant to be a local thing. I thought, oh, this would be cool for a couple of mates of mine and family and friends. And 6 years on, we're fortunate enough to be a national charity now, and it's allowed me to work full time in this space, which has been incredible, and it's just completely changed my life for the better. It's been really hard to not only work in this space, because you're obviously working in a space where you deal with people that are unfortunately going through grief and bereavement. You talk to a lot of people that are currently going through crisis, that have been through crisis. You meet people that have unfortunately lost people recently, and it's definitely one of those careers that you have to take day by day. You don't go home every day and think that was a successful day. It's a really hard career to measure, I suppose, accomplishment, but we take those little wins and those conversations that we can have with people around, possibly changing the stigma or igniting some conversations as wins. Definitely. So
yeah, that's
probably a long-winded answer.
No, mate, that's spot on. You nailed it on the head there. But if we just circle back a little bit to, you mentioned, like, obviously as a child, you eventually noticed it coming on in your teenagers years through to your early 20s there. Do you think that, and I don't want to dwell too much into it if you're not comfortable, but do you think that sort of stems from your dad in a sense? Like, you obviously knew what it was, but did those reasons that they started to come from, like, oh, dad had it, so maybe I do have it too?
Yeah, I did sort of, I did look back at it like that when I sort of got to early 20s. But I think a lot of my mental health crisis came from a lot of anxiety. A lot of I suppose my own demons that I fought, that I've been fighting for quite a long time, and it's something that I think a lot of people fight with, that sort of inner demon and inner thought and stuff like that too. Unfortunately, a lot of my issues came from addiction, alcohol addiction, and drugs in my early teens and stuff like that too. So I think it was probably a combination. It was a combination of a lot of things, and that's the thing with mental health. You look at mental health as a wide spectrum, and I came from a beautiful family, amazing upbringing. We were never rich or anything, but our mum and dad, never allowed us to go without. And you sort of you look at families like that as if they're okay. They've got nothing going on. They're great. And unfortunately for myself and my brother, and obviously my father as well, have experienced some really, really tough mental health crises, just like many, many other families out there that have grown up with, quotation, normal lives, have ended up unfortunately going through those moments and continue to do so as well too. So I think a lot of it was sort of a combination, and unfortunately a bit of a lethal combination.
Yeah, but to be able to recognise it that young, still something unreal. Like, I could tell you right now, I would have no idea what it would have been when I was 16, 17.
Yeah.
Like, I just noticed a mate being upset or down or a bit different. You just think, oh, he's just going through something else. Like, it's nothing big. But the fact that you're able to acknowledge that's huge. And
I give all that credit to Dad. That conversation. And whenever I present, one of the first points that I make is to all the parents in the room, and I talk about that conversation I had with my dad. And I just reiterate the importance of talking to the little people in our life, to our kids, to our nieces, nephews, little cousins, little brothers, little sisters, and just having this conversation and normalising it as much as we can. And whenever we present, we always make sure that everyone in the room knows that we're presenting for them, for everyone in the room, but also everyone in the room that comes into one of our presentations has a responsibility to then take it on and go and talk to their kids, or go and talk to someone younger than them, or go to talk to someone that they work with, or their mates that aren't there that night. And that this conversation around mental health, as much as it is for our generation, it's more for the next generation. It's for the kids coming through. For the, I've got a 7-year-old daughter. I want her to be able to go through high school knowing that she can talk about what's going on.
100%, yeah.
And, unfortunately, myself, I didn't feel like I could throughout high school. I don't know about yourself, but Through high school it was really, really tough, and there wasn't probably a mental health support there. I knew I was able to, but being able to and actually doing it are two different things. So trying to build a world where these kids are going to come up and being able to talk about it, I think is going to make a real big impact.
Yeah, 100%. Like as you said, there, the same in my sort of group. Never sort of got brought up around there, because if any of our mates were going through something, it was always related to something in their life. Like, say one of their parents were getting divorced, you go, oh, he's upset because of that. But none of us ever went, oh, he's just upset for no reason, because you wouldn't acknowledge it for that reason. There always has to be some type of reason for it, when really there doesn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very broad area, but it's amazing to see that you've been able to do such good work to it. But something else I want to talk about there is like you mentioned, like with as you got older, you started to sort of look into this. So were you involved with charities before the Shaka Project came up? Were you sort of talking with anyone else around mental health? Like how did it sort of come about?
Yeah, so I was actually a personal trainer for quite a few years. You probably look at me now going, I don't think so, mate. You meant to say no there, mate.
Bulking season, mate. It's bulking season.
I was a personal trainer for 14 years, and I had a few gyms throughout Victoria.
Yep.
And we did a lot of fundraisers and awareness things and all that sort of stuff. And every single time it was always about mental health, because I was always personally passionate about it, obviously through my father and through my own story as well. So every single fundraiser we ever did was always, all right, we're going to donate to this mental health charity or that mental health charity. It was always about mental health. And we did one fundraiser one year where we did a 24-hour treadmill challenge. And we had heaps of people involved. We got all these businesses involved and raised about $11,000, I think it was.
Wow.
And it was really, really great. This was back before, you sort of see a lot of fundraisers now, which is great. It's fantastic. But this is back in the time where there probably wasn't a whole lot of fundraising around mental health. And we were able to raise a fair bit of money. And I remember we donated this money to a charity that I won't mention, but we donated, and we didn't, we just sort of got an automatic email back just to say, thanks for your donation. And that was it. And I remember sort of seeing it, and I just felt really flat. I was like, this was a really, really big event. It was really emotional for a lot of people. Obviously, we raised a fair bit of money.
A lot of meaning behind
it. And we just sort of got this auto response kind of thing. And I was just sort of like, that kind of stinks. Like that kind of hurts.
Had they been contacted in the build up to it?
They have. So from there, I just thought, okay, I can complain about that, I can talk about that, or I can maybe do something and try and do something of my own. So we started the Shaka a few years later. It did take a while to get up and running. Obviously, we had the gyms at the same time, so that was our full-time career.
So is that, just sorry to go on before you go on there, was that sort of what you always wanted to do, was personal training?
Yeah, absolutely. I did that for 14 years. I absolutely loved it.
Right, so that was straight out of high school, became personal trainer.
I was qualified PT in year 12.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I started when I was 16 and qualified by 18. I was training my teachers in high school. It was crazy. I loved it. I had a few gyms around Victoria.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved what I did. I loved my members, loved the community, loved the whole fitness industry. It was great. And obviously there was a big mental health component to fitness, which is huge. And a lot of people know that. When we sort of launched the Shaka, it was just t-shirts. So we thought, right, what can we do? We can put a Shaka on a t-shirt, and I can tell you the story about why we use the Shaka. It's a pretty cool story. We can put the Shaka on a t-shirt, and this can be a bit of an indication for people to see the t-shirt or the symbol and know that person wearing it has some sort of empathy and understanding for mental health, and maybe that can start a conversation. So if I'm walking down the street, or if I'm at the pub or at the footy or at the gym, and I can see somebody else wearing this t-shirt, I automatically know that someone is a safe person to talk to if I'm having a rough day. And we're like, right, how can we do that? How can we make that happen? And we thought, well, t-shirts, singlets, everybody likes t-shirts, hoodies, all that sort of stuff. Let's do that. Let's make conversation starters. And I remember it really, really clearly. I was with my daughter's mum at the time, and we had just got back from Cairns. We went on a family holiday there, spent a lot of money, and we had about $1,700 in our savings account. I said, right, I'm going to put all this on the Shaka. She was furious. She's like, we just got back from holiday. We obviously spent a bit. Maybe let's just kick this savings back out. I was like, no, let's just do it. Let's just do this. Anyway, I was in the doghouse for a while, but we launched, and as I said, it was meant to be locally, and power of internet, power of social media. It spread really quickly. It essentially took off overnight, and we sold out within a couple of hours of all of our merchandise. I had no idea how to send merchandise. I thought it was going to be, I'll just go drop it off to people. The
post office or something like that.
Yeah, and then we had like an order from New South Wales. I'm like, how do I send something to New South Wales? Like, I've sent a postcard. I don't know how to do that, but how do I send a T-shirt, or how do I? It was a massive learning curve. But from that first 2 months of selling out merchandise, and we got all this social media. I suppose you could say viral. It wasn't sort of as viral as things go these days, but back there, that was 6 years ago. Our post was shared nearly 9,000 times and stuff like that too. So we were just like, wow, this is just intense. And I sort of saw that, and I thought, right, I think this is actually something that a lot of people might need, not just in this local area, but all over Australia. And so yeah, we sort of doubled down, and we sort of jumped straight into it, and tried to invest a little bit more time and money into it. And it sort of plotted on really, really nicely for the next year. And then COVID hit, and the gyms all shut down. So as much as I hated COVID, it was a great way for us to focus 100% on Shaka. And that's exactly what we did. So we'll close at the gyms, which meant we could just focus all on Shaka Project.
And it was probably a good time for it as well.
It was.
A sad time, but also a handy time to have it around.
Absolutely, yeah. And we eventually opened back up about 14 months ago, and I remember walking into the gyms and just thinking, this isn't my passion anymore. I just did a full year on Shaka, and I absolutely love it. It has such obviously a personal contribution to myself, and it's something that's really good for my own mental health to do this kind of work. And so I just thought, let's just do it. Let's just go full time and jump straight into it. So here we are 5 years later, 6 years later.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
I came across you probably 2020.
Yeah,
around that COVID towards the end of 2020.
The year I was busy, yeah.
Yeah. You did a good job, because it popped up on my socials a bit. But yeah, it's unreal to think that, like, how small you would have been there. I think back then, I can't remember how many fellows you had, but I just remember it was still like something where I came across going, oh, this seems interesting. So I just gave you the follow, and next thing you know, I'm just constantly just being bombarded with all this different stuff going. This is actually so relatable, like good bombarded, but it was just unreal to sort of see it all coming through that way. Yeah. Great message behind it all.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's nice to hear that, because it's like I was really, really passionate when we were doing, especially the social media, about it has to be relatable, it has to be authentic as well. 99% of the posts that you see come through our Shaka Instagram is based on how I'm feeling that day, and that's sort of me just trying to be really, really authentic. And I sort of, when I sort of see posts that it sort of feels like it's just, I suppose, a generic post, and it might sort of just be, doing something that you're not trying to push an agenda or something like that too. And I'm like, well, how can we make sure that we're authentic, we're real, and we're putting out messages that people need to hear. And that was something that I was really, really passionate about, is just being as real as possible on social media.
Relatable as possible.
Yeah. Like we've gotten in a bit of trouble over the last 6 years for, swearing on our posts and stuff like that. Can I swear on this?
100%.
Yeah. So like one of my favourite posts is be fucking kind.
Yeah.
And, we've had a few schools call up and say, oh, we really want you here, but, You need to stop this doing, saying the F word on social media. And it's just, it's like, well, as soon as we take away the authenticity, we take away how much that post could mean to someone who's in that state, who's just like, bloody oath, just be fucking kind. Like it's something that we can all do. And so having that authenticity, I think, is so important. Just being real and straight to the point.
Well, one of the messages, actually, it's funny you say that related to me was the "you fucking matter."
Our second favourite, well, probably our first favourite one, actually. Yeah.
Because that was probably one of the first ones I actually ever came across. Because you're in a tough time in my mental health journey as well. I just remember seeing that. And then I had the scroll, came across some others that were really relatable. And that's how that sort of started to speak to me. So your messages you were putting out were resonating with me to help me with getting myself back onto my feet. And
that's good to hear.
Ongoing journey as it was, but it was nice to sort of, in the background, just know I've got sort of something there keeping me inspired and going and able to work on myself at the same time. So the message has definitely been received, not only by me, but many others out there too, mate. That's
great to hear. And that's all we sort of do it for. And, we constantly get sort of people, getting in touch and saying, hey, we'll take over your social media. We'll do your marketing for you, all that sort of stuff. And over the last 6 years, I think I've done every single post that's been on the social media, maybe except for one or two. And I'm really, I'm almost obsessed with it. I'm just like, I want to make sure that it's just as real as we possibly can.
It's like your baby.
100%. Yeah. It's my everything. And being real, being authentic, and we obviously do not want to upset people. We want to do the opposite. We want to just get that one person that might be having a shitty day that sees a post that says, hey, you fucking matter. And they don't have to like it. They don't have to share it. They don't have to comment on it. But if they see that and then they scroll on and then it's like, yeah, you know what? I do matter. Let's do what I need to do to maybe go seek some support, maybe go talk to someone. And really, just like you just told me then, we've had so many stories of people, they've been having a shitty day and they're like, oh, you did this post 2 years ago that said this, and it was just something that just I really needed. And the thing with social media is like you can see likes and you can see shares, but you don't see how many people see that and go, oh, that's good, and then don't like it or don't, which is fine. You don't have to like it, but keep scrolling on and make some sort of impact.
Yeah.
With this amazing story of this woman down in the south of Victoria who every Sunday her and her sons get together and they go through the week of our posts and they pick their favourite ones. They print it off and they put it on the fridge for the next week.
That's awesome.
Like, it's just unreal. And they were doing that for a year and a half before I met her. It's like, I want to tell you a story of what I do. And she told me that. I'm like, that's phenomenal. Like, that is just insane. And when I have those days where I'm like, oh, I don't know what to post, and I'm just coming by the posting, or I'm having my own shitty day. I'm like, oh, hang on, let's just go for a walk, take a breather, come back and have a think about it, because that post could be on somebody's fridge, next week, or it could be something that somebody needs in the next 24 hours, just saying something. So it's
you realise there's a bigger purpose than you just not doing it.
Yeah,
it means something to someone else too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, which is a great feeling. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man, that's unreal.
Yeah.
I guess what I want to ask then, so you brushed on it just briefly, but why the Shaka?
Yeah, awesome story. So I've got he's now 11-year-old stepson, and him and I, as a lot of father-son duos sort of do, through the Shaka all the time. And there was one specific day where we were at the playground, and this is before I started the project. It was in my mind, I want to start this charity. I want to start this thing around mental health. What can I call it? All that sort of stuff. And we were at the playground one day, and I remember he came off the slide, and he came off and he ate shit pretty hard, like into the slide. And me being a pretty irresponsible father figure, I sort of thought, oh, do I need to go and check if he's okay, or am I okay here? I might just keep scrolling and he looks all right. And no, I looked up at him, and he sort of looked over at me, and he threw up a Shaka. I threw a Shaka back. He wiped himself off, and he kept on playing.
That's great.
I was like, yeah, that was pretty sick. I'm like, it was like a way that two guys communicated without necessarily using words. And mental health, the hardest thing about having a conversation is starting a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's really tough if I just walk past you on the street and says, "Hey, my name's Sean. Can we talk about mental health?" It's really tough to do. Really tough.
You get a few stares.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're walking down the street with a Shaka t-shirt, I automatically know. I'm like, I don't know this bloke, but I'm about to stop him and say, "Hey, love the shirt. Let's go grab a beer and have a chat." You know, that's the entire conversation. It's the icebreaker. It's the conversation starter. It is the the moment where you see that and you're like, whoever you are, whatever position you're in, male, female, wherever you are, this person is a safe person to speak to about what's going on, and that can be really, really, really big, massive for anyone that might be just searching for it. And it's happened for me a lot of times. I remember this. I actually don't think I've talked about this. I was having a horrible day one day, possibly one of my worst days. It was about 3 years ago, and I remember sitting in my car just bawling my eyes out. It's absolutely horrible, and I was going through a really, really rough patch and just had a big relationship breakup and all these sort of things. And I was sort of putting on a brave face for Shaka, putting on a brave face for family and all that sort of stuff. And I remember bawling my eyes out, and I looked up, and over the road was a guy wearing one of our original Shaka hoodies. So it would have been from probably a year before, 2 years before. And he was carrying a slab of beer. Actually, it was really funny. He was carrying a slab of beer up his sort of stairs into his little house. And I looked at it, and I was crying before, but I saw this, and I lost it. I was like, wow, that is it just made me feel completely like I had at least one person. My head was screaming at me like it does in those times, saying, you're alone, you're a loser, you're this, you're that. And to see a complete stranger wearing a Shaka hoodie, obviously, firstly, it's cool because that's your brand. But secondly, more importantly, I saw that and I thought, all right, I'm not alone. Like that person, he's wearing that because he might have experienced exactly what I'm experiencing right now. And I remember going up and talking to him and saying, hey, mate, I just want to let you know, I'm having a pretty shitty day and I saw your hoodie and I know what it's all about. I didn't tell him who I was. I said, I know what that's all about, and it just made me feel a little bit better. And he's like, oh, mate, that's how good's that? I love this, just talking about the hoodie and all that sort of stuff. And he invited me in for a beer, and I didn't go in, but just moments like that is just amazing, and being able to sort of feel safe with one person.
That's awesome.
It's incredible.
And that bloke had no idea you were the guy that came up with it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to tell him either. I just wanted to chat.
Share the message, yeah.
Yeah, I was having a real bad day, and I'm just like, I just want to let you know that's pretty cool.
It's funny because that Shaka gesture, it's normal for myself, my mates and all that. We know it really, really well. It's like the hang 10 sign in a sense. So a lot of the older generation, the gym I work at, I'm an exercise physiologist. When I was doing, which we can chat about at some stage, the run to represent the charity, a lot of them are all older. So the Shaka Project, what's the Shaka? And I'm just like, I don't really know how to explain it to them. So I'm showing them and they're like, oh, the hang loose sign. I'm like, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So now when I was at the gym and we had all the promotional stuff up, I was getting close to the event, there's these 80, 70-year-olds, whenever they see me just doing the Shaka to me. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, cool. It's been shared with them. They were coming up to me being like, love the work, what you're doing, trying to raise awareness, telling me some of their stories from it. So it was amazing to see people that are so much older that have actually had that happen early in their life, but they're now seeing the message being relayed. And
absolutely.
Yeah, just from a hand gesture.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely awesome. And we can touch on that age gap as well with the older generation. We've done a lot of work with retirement villages, which has been just incredible. And the biggest message that we have from doing work in those spaces is that, a lot of people look at the older generation as, oh, they don't get it, or they're completely against this conversation. And I was one of them. I was one of those people that thought, right, it's going to be really, really hard to talk to a person over the age of 60 about this, because they grew up in a time where they were taught not to talk about it. And they were. It's not their fault that they were taught. They were
hardened up. Basically the mentality back then.
But my experience with the older generation is that they are so grateful that our generation, the younger people, have given them the opportunity after all this time to actually talk about it and be able to actually open up. And that was something that really, really surprised me when we did these homes, is that a lot of the conversation was, we couldn't talk about it for 60, 70 years, but now that the next generation is talking about it, they're actually giving us permission after all this time. And I just think, how awesome is that? Like, how good is that? All the things that people are doing for mental health, and breaking the stigma and raising awareness, raising funds. As I said at the very, very start, it's not just for us, it's not just for the next generation, but it's also for the generation that came before us. This is a little known statistic, but those over the age of 70 have the highest risk of suicide in Australia, especially men. We lose more people over the age of 70 than all age groups, and that's a scary, scary statistic, especially one that you don't hear about. Not a lot of people talk about, but it's something that we need to talk about more. So to be able to do the work again, not just for the next generation, not just for our generation, but being able to give them a chance, because they've gone through 60, 70 years of being told, don't
silent, essentially. Yeah.
Don't talk. So we're extremely fortunate, but also we've got a massive responsibility.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, you're spot on. Yeah, like in my field, I've worked a lot with veterans, like people that have in the Army, Air Force, military based, and it can be, not that it's intimidating at all, but like their mentality is just like to be tough, to get over it, to move on with things. And I've had guys that are like 50s, 60s, like they're just tough looking blokes. Like if you saw them on the street, you'd stay away from them, tattoos all over them. And I remember when I was originally starting to sort of do this, like start to promote mental health, really working on the run and that, and I was sort of telling them the reasoning behind it. A little part of me went, I just don't know how they're going to react. Are they just going to give me like the, oh, okay, and just like, why are you doing that? Like, that's not real, anything like that. And these, incredibly, these blokes that are like just so tough, like you would not expect them to have any sort of issue whatsoever. They're like, mate, that is unreal.
Yeah.
Like the shit we've seen through our whole life, and we've had to sort of just keep it all boxed up here. We go and see psychologists, we go and see this, we go and see that, just to try and vent it out and get rid of it. But you have no idea how it is, how much we've always wanted to express it. But the times in the military, just like, no, you have to push that aside and focus on this first. So it's insane to sort of see how that message can relay. And even if you have someone pictured in mind of going like, I don't think I'll be able to crack them with this, like you don't have to crack them anyway, but you think they're going to judge the message you're trying to share, and it's far from it. Yeah,
mate, it's such a prevalent thought, especially in this space. I'm so fortunate. I've done over 600 events over the last 6 years to footy clubs and work sites and mine sites and all that sort of stuff. And I always say the same thing, that every single event that I've ever done, the most common comment that I get when I finish, people come up to me and they say thank you and all that sort of stuff. The most common comment that I get from people in the room is, "Hey, I've been there. I've been in that moment." I talk about my own suicide ideation and suicide attempts, and the most common response, 3, 4, sometimes 10 times, an evening when I'm presenting, is, "I've been there. I've been in that moment as well." And if that doesn't show just how many people, out there have gone through it or are going through it, it's phenomenal. And these are people from the country. We go for regional Australia and we meet tough farmers who have bet droughts and floods and fires and all this sort of stuff. They're built like brick shit houses. They're huge men. They've got a massive presence, and they walk in the door and you're like, well, this is going to be hard to break, as you said. And we all think that too. And within, a couple of minutes, they're being vulnerable and opening up and saying, yep, I've been there. I've been in that exact same position. And it's something that, it's just so common with so many people all across Australia. It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what position you're in, what path of life you're on, any of that, someone has been through something. And there's been so many people that have been at that point when we talk about suicide prevention, so many people that a lot of people wouldn't expect that have been at that point of crisis where they've, maybe made a plan or maybe put something into action to self-harm or suicide. it's bigger than a lot of us think.
Have you ever had like situations where, say, you've been doing something for like a sporting team, at the mine sites, anything like that? Have you ever had situations where like that didn't really go to plan? Like no one sort of took the message on? Like, have you ever had sort of backlash in a sense of where it didn't really go the way you thought it would?
To be honest, we actually haven't. We did have one event where it was in a really poor. Actually, it was over in WA. I won't say where it is, but it was over here in WA, and it was at a sporting club, and there was just a little bit of, I suppose, I don't want to say disrespect, but no, I will say it probably was that disrespect for the message from a few people. And that, unfortunately, those people were reasonably influential on the club, which, when you look at any sort of community, the influential people are influential, and a lot of people are going to follow those people. So we were at this club about a year and a half ago, and a lot of people that were there were drinking quite heavily, and they probably didn't take it as serious as it needs to be taken, and that unfortunately flowed on a little bit. In saying that, there was I remember from that event, a young 17-year-old boy came up to me afterwards and apologised for the behaviour of the 30-year-old men. So there was a light in that event, but look, there's and I always say, whenever I present at schools, it can be really, really hard. A lot of kids might be a little bit rowdy. It might be a little bit sort of disruptive and all that sort of stuff. And the teachers always come up to me like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about him. I'm so sorry about that group." And my response is always the same: is that this is not an easy thing to talk about.
No.
And if their response is to bug around with their friends, then that's their response. It's I'm a random guy that's just come in and started to talk about suicide and something that's super uncomfortable. I don't expect everyone to sit there and be laser focused and not be.
You sort of relate it back to when you were at school. If someone did that when you were there, you'd probably just be like half in it, half out of it, depending on if you've experienced it before.
Yeah, I was listening, but also I was like, I don't want my mates to know that I'm listening, so I'm gonna dick around with them. But yeah, look, it's not an easy conversation. So I completely understand that people will get uncomfortable. But, over the last 6 years, we've had that one in WA that was pretty tough, but we've had some unbelievable communities, conversations, people. The amount of random people I've hugged at events who have just, have just made my week and made my day, and just and sort of helped me continue to do the events and continue to do this message and all that sort of stuff. But I suppose over the last 6 years, the biggest lesson with these events is that there is so much more work to do. That's the biggest lesson. There is so much more work to do. There is so much more awareness to get out there, and normalisation, and stigma breaking, and just so much more work to do, because there's a lot of people out there that are struggling, and they still a lot of people still think that there is no support, or that they can't talk about it, or that they shouldn't talk about it too. So that's probably the biggest lesson. It's
quite sad when you're thinking about it like that too.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
it really is. It's absolutely heartbreaking, and you look at it on a few different levels, but the biggest level that we try and look at it is that it's a human level. Suicide is a humanity issue. And a lot of people think it's a government issue, it's a funding issue, it's this, it's that. For someone that is in the space where government funding is available, it's not a funding issue. For someone who's in the space where we talk with organisations and governments and all that sort of stuff, it's a humanity issue. Suicide prevention is being nicer to your Uber driver. Suicide prevention is taking your earpods out when you order a coffee and having a chat to the barista and being really, really kind. And suicide prevention is, talking to your mate when maybe they've stuck into the beers a bit too hard, over the last couple of weeks, and saying, "Hey mate, I love you too much to watch you go through this. I think it's time to back up the beers, or maybe reconsider, getting on those drugs on the weekend," and on these sorts of things. That's suicide prevention, and it's what we need to do. It's my job. It's your job. It's everyone's job to be able to do these things for suicide prevention. It's a long time gone where we just say, oh, the government will do it or funding will do it. Yes, there's a lot of things wrong with the government and with funding when it's other things, but when it comes to this, it is a 100% humanity issue.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we all need to do our part to help others as well. Yeah, can't just come from one person and we go, oh, don't listen to us. You got to focus more on that.
Yeah,
message can come from you, can come from your mate, family member, whatever it is. So yeah, 100% spot on. The thing I want to chat on there is, like, obviously you mentioned before you've gone through quite a few things in your life as the reason as to how this all came about with the charity and that, and working in a space where you meet and come across a lot of people that, although they are on like the mend and that, you would sort of meet some people that are going through challenging things, may even push it back onto you as well, still going through your own sort of challenges too. Do you find you do struggle sometimes when you have other people throwing their problems and struggles towards you, and then you're also trying to deal with your stuff as well?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's sort of, do you find that builds up? Have you got ways of coping mechanisms, or can it become too much at times?
It can most definitely become too much. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I took a week off just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Actually, I had about 2 or 3 months of, you know, traveling every 2 days and 3 or 4 events every single week, and I was just so busy and so flat out and stopped doing the things that I need to do for myself, and I crashed. I absolutely crashed, and you know, I had my first panic attack about 2 months ago, first one in 2 years, which, you know, panic attacks are something that had a massive part of my life for a long period of time, and I went 2 years without one, and that was a massive win for me. And about 2 months ago, I had my first one in 2 years, and that was a big wake-up call for me to step back and to say, right, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm putting myself first? And it's a little bit silly because I go around and talk at these events saying, hey, you guys have to put yourself first, and normally I'm at that event not putting myself first. You know, it's a bit of a contradiction, but it's really bloody tough. It can be. It can be really, really hard. And, you know, I need to make sure that I'm doing my own positive mental health practices, you know, going to the gym or going for a run, going for a walk, you know, sitting down and putting on a silly TV show and just switching off the laptop and the TV and the phone, and, you know, things like that just turn your brain off for a little bit.
For you, yeah.
Just for me, yeah. But it's really, really hard sometimes, and it can be a real struggle. I've got some incredible support from family, from friends, from work colleagues, from ambassadors, from people just in the community, in the Shaka community. But yeah, I won't lie to you and say that it's the easiest job in the world, because it's most definitely not.
I couldn't even imagine.
You know, I constantly sort of think about, you know, if the work that we're doing and all this sort of stuff is, you know, is I suppose tracking in the right direction, and obviously a charity is, although it's a charity, it's still a business, and you've still got, you know, employees to pay and stuff like that too. So you've got that side of it, plus the message, plus everything else you're doing. So it can be really bloody stressful. But, you know, my positive mental health practices, like I said, are doing all those things. My daughter is my saviour. You know, if I can speak to her on the phone when I'm away for 5 minutes, I'm good for 2 days. You know,
yeah, wow.
that just pumps me back up. But yeah, it's hard, but also it's really, it actually helps my mental health doing these talks and having these conversations. I have massive imposter syndrome. I don't know if you guys have spoken about it on the pod, but huge imposter syndrome. You know, I'm speaking tomorrow at a conference in front of 250 doctors and professors. I'm like, I only just scraped through high school, you know, like I got a letter at the end saying, hey, you passed, but, you know, like only just. And it's just, it's a huge imposter syndrome to be in this position. And I'm so grateful to be able to do this kind of work, although it is hard. I also know just how lucky I am to do it. Yeah,
no, you're doing great things in that space. And like you said, like as well, you're speaking to doctors and all that as well, as people are so high up about it. You've also got the message from like some athletes and that too, I've noticed as well. Like do you ever sort of get much reach out from them, or is it just more of they like to follow the story as well of what you're promoting?
Yeah, it's been amazing. This with the natural outreach of athletes and quotation influencers, celebs, all that sort of stuff. A quick story on that, which is something that I love to tell. But we got, I think it might have been in the second year, we got a new follower. I thought I'll quickly check this. And I looked, and it was Michael Clark from Australian cricketer. I'm like, well, that's a joke. That's obviously not him. I looked, and it was 100% him, and then he was watching our stories, and thought, oh wow, this is really, really cool. Obviously, we followed him back. And then it was probably a few weeks later, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. Going to give this a crack. You know, this guy's one of the biggest cricketers in the world. Sent him a message. Hey, thanks for support. We'd love to send you some stuff. And within a couple of minutes, he's like, yep, here's the address. Send it through. I'd love to catch up and have a chat. And he sent through his assistant's details. I'm like, okay, I'll just be dealing with the assistant. So I called this number, and Michael Clark answered. Mate, when I tell you I nearly fell off my chair, he's like, hey, mate, away. I'm like, I watched up growing him. I grew up watching him, play cricket, play the Ashes, just absolute hero, and to be able to speak to him, and he was such a generous person. He's like, mate, I don't want any free stuff. I'm happy to buy it. I'll buy it all, but I just love your message. And he's shared posts wearing a Shaka. He's never charged us a cent. He does massive brand deals on his social media. He reaches hundreds of thousands of people. He was on Sunrise a few years ago wearing a Shaka jumper. Just little things like that.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. But we've also had a lot of AFL and AFLW players jump on board as well. A few NRL players, cricketers. And it's just really cool to see. You put a post up and you see an Australian cricketer like it, or an AFL player like it. You're like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. So, and the biggest thing is, again, like, not one of them has ever reached out and says, hey, can I have some free stuff? We have had people do that. And, we love the message, can I have 10 free jumpers? And you're like, well, come on now. Like, if you love the message,
you'll pay for it. Yeah.
Grab free jumpers, grab 10 jumpers. So we've never had any of those people, athletes, any of that ask for anything.
Yeah.
They've just shared a post and or they've liked a post, or they've just followed us, and that's the support we need, because once again, they are influential at the end of the day, and just to be able to see them support a message is absolutely massive.
Yeah, mate, it's unreal. Yeah, when you see that type of stuff come up from there, mate, I reckon I could probably go on about so many of the stories, but the thing I want to sort of speak about, like, you obviously get a lot of fundraising and all that for the events too, and like I myself did one for you as well. But how much of those make such an impact as well? Like, have you had many people sort of reach out and go, hey, I've got this event I want to do. I want to represent it for this reason. I want to use your charity. Like, do you find you get a lot of that? Is that sort of like something that's big for promoting it?
It's huge. And when I say it is so important to continue what we're doing, it's an understatement. We are a very, very, when you look at charities around Australia, we're pretty small. And although we've been able to do a really big reach through social media, but, when we get fundraisers like yourself, or, we had people doing a barbecue at their footy club and raising $600, or, things like that. We had someone selling chocolates at their school and they raised $75 and those sort of things too. Like, they make such a big impact, an absolutely insane impact. And, we're so fortunate enough to have people go and do things for the Shaka. It's still it's an unreal feeling. Even when you were running, I remember speaking to my partner and going, this guy's still running right now, and he's doing it for something that we started, 5 years ago out of the laundry. It's an amazing feeling to know that maybe this message is something that's driving someone to keep running, or to keep doing this, or to sell a sausage at the barbecue and things like that too, because they want to help the message. It's amazing how many people want to go out there and give and do something for a good cause. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the most selfless thing in the world for someone to be able to go out there and say, I'm going to run bloody 80 Ks a day or 100 Ks a day, like someone we know, and all for a cause. You know, I think it's really, really underrated just how big that is. Because, you know, you took time off work, you damaged your body.
Still
you did all
recovering.
this, still recovering. You did all that sort of stuff. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't see, you know, the little things and these people that organise fundraisers for us and the back end stuff and all the work that goes into it and the mindset of people that do these sort of things. You don't see that. Sometimes you see, oh, this person was able to raise $500 or $10,000 or whatever it might be. But it's the personal connection that we appreciate more. It's the
reasoning behind it.
Yeah, the reasoning and knowing the person that's doing it and understanding why they're doing it and you know, making sure that person knows that even if they go out there and they raise 50 cents, that they're still so appreciated for getting out there and actually just doing something.
It's not the money raised, it's the message shared.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'd rather someone go out there and whether it be a running one or a barbecue or something like that, and we'd rather them go and talk to 10 people about what it's about and maybe start a conversation than raise 10 grand for us. You know, that's the conversations are much more valuable than the money. Obviously, the money helps us continue the conversations, but, you know, the amount of people that reached out, you know, when you were running or when we do our Run for Our Mates challenge, and they're like, oh, I was running doing this and I saw someone else running and we connected and we had a chat and we spoke about what we're doing, and then we started talking about mental health and we started talking about this. Now we're mates, we're catching up for a beer next week and we're going to, you know, little things like that you're like, wow, we could have raised $0 and this would have been a success. So it's all about the impact and you know, we have a lot of people that do fundraisers and they apologise to us. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry, like I really wanted to raise more and all that sort of stuff. We had like 500 people at this event, but we only raised $500. And you're like, are you serious? You're like, you got to speak in front of 500 people about the importance of seeking support. Like that's invaluable. That's unbelievable. So we would 100% rather that than you know, X amount of dollars or whatever it might be too. So I think that's been our really what we've been passionate about since the start is just the impact we can make or other people can make on our behalf or for us, not the other side of it. Yeah.
And I will say, like, during my run, like, I had times where it was really, really tough and I just had to keep going back to, like, I'm sharing a message here, I'm doing that. And there was one day in particular where I just was just about almost on the verge of just giving up. Body was hurting, the chafing was crazy. Like, it was just nothing wanted to work for me. And my coach, one of my best mates, he shared a message on my story and said, look, he's going through a bit of a tough period at the time. He just needs a bit of a perk up. Do you mind just flicking me a message, sending a video, whatever it might be? And the amount of feedback I got back from people about, I've actually been following your story silently. Yeah. I haven't spoken up, but just letting you know I'm going through a tough time. And I'm secretly so excited to see every update you do.
Yeah.
Because it helps me sort of realise I want to get out of bed today and get about my day.
Yeah.
So it was just those little things that sort of just perked me back up to go, I'm not doing this. I'm doing this for myself, doing this for you, but I'm also doing it for other people that are struggling as well. And that sort of, that amazingly just drive you to keep going one step again and again and again. So, yeah.
And that's impact, isn't it? And it's just, it's amazing. We talk about this when we go to schools a lot. It's amazing how much of an impact everyone can have on just one person.
Yeah.
And whether it be a conversation, whether it be doing something like that. But, you know, just little things that you do that you may not see, you know, the silent followers or the people watching from the background and just sort of seeing what you're doing and, you know, seeing people that you're making such a big impact is amazing, but also the people that you don't see that you make an impact on, you'll obviously never see them, but having that in the back of your mind of like, right, an extra K or an extra post or maybe this or maybe that could be just helping that one person. And again, as I said, that comments like that you got are more valuable than, you know, anything. It's just amazing, which I can imagine was super inspirational for you to get running,
mate,
push through that chafe.
It would be, don't worry, the chafe, that took a while to recover. But no, there was just those messages that just really just propelled me, kept me going. Like I could have done it for my own terms. I wouldn't have even needed anyone else. But the fact that I had that extra support, as well as the support from my team and all that, they were incredible. They were keeping me going every single day. But those messages of support from other people that were listening in, that were following silently, whatever it might be, it was something that really just propelled me, and it just showed that the message is getting out there.
Yeah.
It's just in different ways of getting it out there.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, mate. No.
Yeah, inspirational. That's huge.
Mate, unbelievable. But for the charity, like, what is it? How can we support the charity more? That's probably what we want to get out of it.
Well, I suppose, sort of go back to what we just spoke about. I think the best way you can support us and all the other prevention charities is just
run.
Just run 80 k's a day. That'd be great. No, just go out and tell your mates you love them. That's genuinely the biggest support that we can get, is just going and doing little things like that. Telling your mates you love them, calling someone you haven't spoken to in a while and just checking in, make sure they're okay. Destigmatizing mental health. Have a conversation with your mates. It's going to be a tough conversation. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be full of emotions and that sort of stuff too, but it could be a conversation that saves your life or somebody else's. That is the ultimate way to help us. At the end of the day, you can donate, you can buy a t-shirt, you can do all that sort of stuff, but the biggest impact you can make is on the people around you. So if you can call a mate, tell them how much you love them, then that's the biggest thanks that we can get.
That's amazing. Help. Speaking of the shirts, that's the new one you just released?
This is the new one we got. Yes, this is the varsity ones.
For the ones listening or watching, amazing look about them. I love that type of look, so I'm actually going to be organised and get myself some of them.
I should have brought you some.
Oh, mate, don't worry, I'll buy mine.
These are our sick version ones, but the merch has been something really, really big for us. Obviously, last 6 years, and it's essentially helped to fund free prevention workshops and being able to do and grow the charity, I suppose. We're just about to hit, I think we're pretty close to 50,000 conversation starters sold. So that's a mix between t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, stickers. We're about I think we're about 48,000. So around, almost that 50,000 mark, which we see that as 50,000 conversation starters spread all around the place.
It doesn't even count the ones that haven't purchased. They've just started on their own.
Started conversation. Yeah, exactly right. So we're pretty proud of that, to be able to sort of get so many of the t-shirts out there, and stickers. We see stickers around all the time, and people wearing Shaka hoodies and Shaka beanies out in public and all that sort of stuff too. So those sort of things, I don't really. The words can't explain how important it is and how brave it is. Also, when I see someone wearing a Shaka t-shirt or wearing a Shaka hat or whatever it might be, because in my eyes, they're essentially putting up a big sign above their head saying, I've been through it. I have some sort of understanding for mental health.
I'm vulnerable and I'm ready to talk.
Or maybe I've lost someone, or maybe I've almost lost myself, and that's that's huge. I don't think anyone would walk around the streets with a sign above their head saying that. Yeah. But whenever we see someone wear a Shaka top, it sort of comes back to, okay, that person may have experienced something. They may have gone through something. They may be going through something. Maybe they've lost someone, but I know that person is someone I can go and speak to. Yeah. So that's absolutely massive. And that's the one thing that when we started, we wanted to be able to do, and to be able to do that, almost 50,000 times is pretty special. It's the stories that we've heard from people sitting in pubs in New South Wales and having a beer by themselves, and someone comes up to them and sits down with them and says, hey, I love a t-shirt, can I have a beer with you? Phenomenal. It's just so heartwarming to see that people will be able to have a chat just because of something on their back. It's pretty cool. So it's been amazing.
It's been an unreal message, and journey. I'm loving everything you're doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything else you do. And I know I'm going to tell you this now, I'm going to do something else crazy.
Well, mate, I think that was a bit of a warm-up for you. Yeah. I think we can get you West Coast to East Coast.
West Coast to East Coast, you reckon? Yep.
Bugger it, why not?
Oh, mate. Everyone else is doing it. I reckon I can probably give it a crack.
Do the old Ned Brockman track, you'll be right. Just come down to Victoria where it's nice and cold. Yeah, that'll be easy for
So you can get me a sponsor with Vaso as well. That might help me with the chafing. Yep.
Yeah, we can do that. Olive oil, whatever it is.
Works, really.
Yeah, no, we can do that. I'll talk to our people.
Beauty. Sean, thanks so much, mate. I'm looking forward to sharing this story, and I'm going to get you on again one day. I know it, but yeah,
beautiful.
Looking forward to what happens.
Thanks, pal.
Cheers, mate.